We're back. This is Bethalto Today, our bi-weekly audio news magazine. With me this morning, Miss Ozella J. Foster from Ozella J. Foster Funeral Services. We're talking about prearranged funerals. Folks, it's something that needs to be discussed amongst family members, but it's something that you have to learn about. Knowledge is power. Isn't that right, Ozella?
Yes, it is. And you're better to be prepared than not to have what you need when the time is inevitable. It's going to come. Just as sure as we breathe, we're going to leave this earth. And you have to be prepared. One of the worst things to do is to leave the responsibility on your survivors. We meet that often, and it's very heartbreaking because we as a people, when we come in and we got to go out and we got to do the fundraisers, because the responsibility did not lie on you, Steve. It really was the person who's we're funeralizing. So if you don't leave everything in order, tell your family what you want. And by the way, when you do it, you can take the charge to say to your family, this is what I want you to do. So when your family follows your wishes, you control from the grave or control from your death what your family do, how much money they spend.
Mm-hmm. Ozella, let's talk about cremations. I know a lot of people are using cremations these days. Are cremations the last resort?
My daughter and I sit down yesterday and we were talking about the rise of cremation. Couple years ago, I maybe have done 9. I'm just new into business on my own now. Since my brother's is now closed, in 2008 I started my own. So I'm keeping up with cremation because the trends are changing. Last year we did 22 cremations. Now that's a lot for me. The bottom line is we're taking cremations as an out. If I ask, do you desire in advance? Do you desire cremation, and then why? Because if you have to do cremation, we're doing it a lot now just because the funds are not there. But cremation is a choice of the individual, but it appears today it's a solution. Now, if you got opportunity to sit down and realistically think about why I want to be cremated, then you can say to your family, it's just my desire. But when it becomes a hardship on the family, it's a very heartbreaking thing for that surviving family to have to realize that I can't have the public service. Now, there is a way that you can do it. Even though you want to be cremated, you can say, well, I choose to be cremated, but I don't want to bring closure. I want my family to have some closure. Let me just design it. Let them have some public viewing,
right?
And then be cremated.
Then you can cremate.
Now that's a good way, but then that's you making the decision. But cremation is on the rise because not just our people, but people in general are just not prepared when it comes to death.
Do you see that more with the African American community, cremation, because they're not prepared? Maybe the mom or grandmother didn't have any type of insurance, and this is the best way to put her away.
We see it, and you can do it with dignity. What happens is when you sit down with the family, and yes, Steve, I do see it a lot. But in our case, as the funeral home owners, we see it a lot in our African Americans is because we're not there. The money is not there.
So you're saying that we're not prepared.
We're not prepared.
And that's the reason why.
And that's the reason why we're doing it entirely too much. I might be one that I'm not a very good friend when it comes to cremation. I'm one of those people to whereas I will do everything that I can to help that family, because if I lose my next door neighbor in a fire, I'm devastated. But many people don't know the procedure of cremation. So once I learn the procedure, I will say to you, let's direct bury. Let's prearrange for a direct burial. And what a direct burial is, there is no law to say that I must be embalmed when I pass away. But there is a law that protects the number of days that you can stay refrigerated before the procedure takes process. And so at that rate, you're limited with what you can do when you don't have the funds. But direct bury is almost just as much as cremation.
Now, you remember when James Brown had passed?
Yeah.
And
I remember the story.
I guess they held his body on ice for I don't know how many days now.
How many months? Well, didn't they have the funeral first and then just kept him before they did a funeral?
Right.
Well,
Is that legal?
It's legal if you can't. I won't say it's legal, but it's the process. There's nothing to say when I need to be in the ground. There's nothing written in Missouri laws. I don't see it in Missouri law. But if you hold that person, some refrigeration has to take place. But if that person is embalmed, you're just trying to make a decision to basically do the deposition on that person. By that I mean, what are you going to do with these remains? That pretty much is what we're trying to look at from the humane side of it. But it doesn't bring closure. One of the things that you can basically just know, if you don't have a purpose of where you're going to go, an idea of what you want to do when you die, there is no closure. You ever saw people go down the street sometimes, Steve, and they act like all their mental faculties are not there?
Yes.
When I worked with my brother on Grand, I saw that so much up and down Grand Avenue. And I used to wonder, what happened? What if that person, had to just see a family member, didn't know what they were going to do, didn't know how to bury him? What did that do to their mind? Let's prearrange it. You don't have to have 5,000. If you just say, well, I just want them to have a visitation. Okay, put away 3,000. Let them at least have that much. Some is better than none.
That's
and
true.
If you prearrange it, I can take them pay a little bit at a time. And if the funeral director knows that family, hey, today I got $20. Tomorrow I might have 50.
Our conversation this morning is with the very informed Ozella J. Foster from Ozella J. Foster Funeral Services. Ozella, what happens if you pass before you actually pay off your prearranged funeral?
I have to give you credit for every dime you've paid into it. So if you start off wanting something for $3,000 and you've only paid in $1,500,
that's what you get.
You get $1,500.
You get $1,500 worth of a funeral
plus a little bit of interest. But your family can say, "Well, okay, we'll find $1,000."
Okay.
Now you're the funeral home. You know that family, and if you've buried in that family, even if they're new to you, the nature of our business is you got to give. Everybody thinks that when you go do this business, it's because you wear a nice suit. Or you wear a pretty hat like I wear. You wear,
yes.
You drive big cars. You simply have to know this is a giving business. You have to be a caring person. So when Miss Jones come in and you started the plan, but yet you did not live until you paid in maybe $1,500 to $2,000. Well, the family members are going to say, well, that's our loved one. Let's try to pull together.
Right.
Then you make up something and just give closure. You bring closure to what it is you need to do.
That is something else. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of scenarios.
30 years worth.
30 years worth.
30 years I've been in this business.
How did you start? I mean, I know your brother started, but what made you say?
My brother started when he was 17, and that's when our mom died. So when Ted called me one day, it was like 1982. Come and help me. When he said come to help me, I started off making flowers. And so as a process of making the flowers, my first client up in there was someone, I'm a nurse by trade.
Okay.
That person was my client at Central Medical Center. Then I went from making flowers to writing up burial plans to being a licensed funeral director. But I was never the person on the outside. I was always the in-house funeral director. So as I made the funeral arrangements, my relationships with people throughout the community grew.
Okay.
So one of the blessings is that when my brothers went out, I was able to use the legacy. People call me, and the Lord he didn't leave me, because for the simple reason, when I started the business, I got my first funeral coming out of my house.
Oh, wow.
And so November 2008, I got my first service, and I've been okay since.
I can see. All them diamonds and stuff you got on.
Hey, these just
I'm just playing.
I know.
Ozella, you have so much information. If someone has to contact you either by the web or a phone number, can they contact you with their questions? And would you be able to answer these people's questions? Because Remember, being a funeral director is a busy job.
Being a funeral director is a busy job, but that is your job. If you walk into the building, yes, I can sit down with you. If you call 314-652-3305 and you say, I can't come, can you come to me? Being in the comforts of your home is better any day than being in a funeral business or a funeral home trying to make sensible decisions. Yes, I can.
That's interesting. Our conversation this morning is with Miss Ozella J. Foster from Ozella J. Foster Funeral Services. Where's your address? What's your address?
3619 Finney, right off Grand and between Spring. 3619 Finney, St. Louis, Missouri, 63113.
Thank you so very much, Ozella. Thanks for joining the show this morning.
Oh, no,
Much
I thank
success.
you for letting me come.
Oh, without a doubt, I had to bring you on.
Wait. I got to tell you about this success. Go to the website, OzellaJFosterFH.net. Take a peep at what the Lord is about to do for us.
This is Bethalto Today on Old School 955.